Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Rouses Markets. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We're working towards the weekend. Glad you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Our Thursday staple is going to be with us at 1:15 and 2:15, as they always are. Luke Johnson talking Saints 15 minutes from right now. Chris Blair talking Tigers an hour and 15 minutes from right now. Death of a baseball legend is something we'll get to a little bit later. I got a segment at the top of hour number 2. We usually do this about this time every year. Who are the players, coaches, individuals with the most to gain or lose as the NFL playoffs progress? I've got some thoughts on that at the top of hour number 2. And Heather Dinich has a long-form piece up on ESPN right now about the college football playoff. She has spoken with 12 or so sources who, most of which chose anonymity, but they're talking about the meetings that have taken place to discuss the future of the college football playoff and how things might change moving forward now that we have almost one college football playoff of the 12-team version in the rearview mirror, and I want to give some thoughts on that as well. So lots and lots to do over the next 2 hours, and appreciate you hanging out with us right here. We'll start the same way we do each and every day with our Genesis Opening Drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Some jarring news this morning coming courtesy of WBRZ here in Baton Rouge, Channel 2. They reported earlier today that Colin Hurley, LSU freshman quarterback, was injured in an off-campus crash at about 2:45 a.m. this morning when authorities reached his Dodge Charger that had crashed into a tree at South Quad Drive and Highland Road that was near the South Gates of LSU's campus. Investigators found him unresponsive. He was breathing, and then he was in and out of consciousness and had a large cut on his face. They have not determined what the cause of this crash was, but officials say that impairment was not suspected. So obviously a terrifying situation for a young person, and in Hurley's case, younger than most in his position, if not all in his position, quite frankly. If y'all remember, Colin Hurley reclassified to graduate from high school early and enroll in LSU, and he was already young for his age. When he got to LSU in January of this year, Colin Hurley was 16 years old. It blows my mind, honestly, as someone who showed up on campus at 18 and 8 months or so. So Hurley, now 17-year-old from Jacksonville, Florida, and we believe he is still in the hospital. I certainly can't report that, but according to WBRZ, who's been updating their story throughout the day, said an update on his condition has not been provided. And that's a scary thing when something like that happens to a young person. And for us, it's newsworthy when that young person plays for LSU. Hurley redshirted this past year as expected. He showed up, as we mentioned, a year early and was in a crowded quarterback room. And I feel like, and certainly not to dismiss the severity and to dismiss what happened this morning, but certainly we discussed the football side of it here on a sports talk show. Hurley was a guy that I think is kind of forgotten in his role in the football program because of those circumstances I just laid out. You show up at 16 and no one is going to consider you a sincere threat to the starting quarterback spot. And so Garrett Nussmeier goes out there as a redshirt junior and has a monster season. A.J. Swan and Ricky Collins right there. And so Colin Hurley kind of slides in right behind there as a guy who's just going to kind of run some reps on the practice squad, learn as much as he can, and kind of figure out how to do life on your own at 16 and now 17 years old. And then all of a sudden, you see that Garrett Nussmeier's coming back, but that Ricky Collins and A.J. Swan are going to move on from their spots at LSU and look elsewhere. And all of a sudden, Bryce Underwood decides he's not coming, and you look up, and LSU's quarterback situation is pretty scarce. Now, LSU did go get Michael Van Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State, and he is very much presumed to be the backup to Garrett Nussmeier after starting 8 games this year for Mississippi State. But Hurley is right there, and early on in Colin Hurley's high school career, as a very young person, he was considered among the best prep quarterbacks his age in the country. He was a 15-year-old as basically a freshman to be a sophomore. He was throwing for a lot of yards, was already pretty physically imposing, and was thought to potentially be among maybe the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in his class. Now, keep in mind, most don't grow until they're 15, 16, 17 years old. A lot of high schoolers don't become the starting quarterback until their sophomore, maybe even junior year. So he's got a head start on basically everybody that's his age when you're 15 years old and piloting a Florida high school. And so when he reclassified, he got dinged a little bit as far as the group of his peers. They changed from 14 and 15-year-olds to 18-year-olds. And he still signed with LSU and has been very, very outspoken, especially on social media, about how much he loves LSU and how appreciative he has been of his early time at LSU. So certainly as we sit here at just after 1 o'clock on Thursday, we wish all the best to Colin Hurley as he begins this recovery. I'm certain that more information will come out about what happened here, but as I'm reading WBRZ's very, very quality reporting here, it sounds like to me no foul play here, no impairment was suspected. Potentially, and I'm just reading between the tea leaves here and editorializing a little bit in a very serious situation, it looks like maybe he just kind of lost control of his vehicle and ended up crashing into a tree. Thankfully, the firefighters were able to get there, get to him, get him out of that vehicle when he was not in very good shape, according to the reports. And I certainly hope the very, very best for Colin Hurley as he starts a little bit of a recovery process here. If we learn anything, by we mean those that are reporting on the outside here about the condition of Colin Hurley over the next hour and change, we'll certainly let you know about that. But a lot of things more important than football, this certainly would qualify as that. As Colin Hurley, if you're just checking in here, 17 years old, involved in a car crash with a tree, looked like a single automobile accident last night near 3 o'clock in the morning, was taken out by the authorities and presumably transported for medical care. So we'll see what we learn more from Colin Hurley as we move on here on today's show. As I mentioned, we've got a ton to do. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouses Markets. Rouses is baking lots of king cakes. Lots and lots and lots of king cakes. When I saw the number, it kind of took me back. Like, their king cake staff is going to make 600,000 king cakes over the course of carnival season, which we're right in the middle of now. I know that we spend a lot of time at the Rouses Burbank and Lee. When you walk into that store, there are king cakes just stacked at the front door. On Friday when I was there, and I'll be there again tomorrow, but last Friday when I was there, all the cinnamon standard size were on the left and all the flavors were on the right. Very easy to delineate the two. They've got the check marks which the flavor is. Find your favorite one, bring it to your party or bring it home. We got one on the counter almost every day because my wife is a big fan of the old king cakes, and I don't mind a little piece as well. And we can bribe our kid with them, which is excellent use of a Rouse's king cake. So yeah, get on by Rouse's and grab your king cake this carnival season. They've got a lot of them at all their locations. All right, let's step aside, take a time out. When we come back, we'll chat with Luke Johnson. There's a lot going on in Saints land right now. Clint Kubiak looking at a potential second interview with the Seattle Seahawks. So tons and tons to do. We'll get back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Mitchell Fisher and his team just do a phenomenal job. There's just such a charm and such a convenience in working with a local company. And Mitchell is right here in Baton Rouge and certainly happy to service just about all of South Louisiana. So if you're looking for a security system, look no further than the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. That's who we've trusted with ours. I can pull up an app 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can see the camera at my front door. I can see the camera at my back door. I can arm our burglar alarm. I can disarm our burglar alarm. All that at the touch of a button. I don't pay any cloud storage fees. The picture is crystal clear. And if there is an issue, which there hasn't been in the year that we've had it, I know where to find Mitchell. And we've done that in the past because he's got his cell phone accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to all of his clients. And I give it to you every single day here on the Hunt Palmer Show. That's the beauty of working with a local company. You can call Mitchell at 225-439-7920. That's 225-439-7920. Or find him online, avssla.com, avssla.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouses. The next segment, I'm going to take us outside of the Baton Rouge bubble here a little bit and just kind of get a perspective of the SEC as a whole. I know that Brian Kelly's approval ratings probably not through the roof in Baton Rouge. The question is, like, where are coaches' approval ratings through the roof? We'll get a look at that coming up in our next segment. I've got a column coming up at louisianasports.net later this afternoon that'll kind of detail kind of where I think everyone stands in the SEC, and that doesn't change the expectation on LSU at all. Like, LSU is LSU, and it's competing against itself, not necessarily how everybody else is doing. It doesn't make LSU fans feel a lot better when you're 8-4 just because Florida's 6-6. That doesn't make anybody feel any better in Baton Rouge. It doesn't make you feel better being 8-4 because Texas A&M is 8-4. The expectation at LSU is the expectation at LSU, but the question still begs when you pull yourself out of this bubble that we tend to live in, like, okay, what is the approval rate of coaches around college football? My thoughts on that coming up a little bit later. We got to say goodbye to a baseball legend as well. We'll do that with Luke Johnson here in a little bit. And who are the 5 people men who are most impacted by the next 4 weeks in the National Football League. Still got the divisional round, got the conference championships, the Super Bowl to play. Who's got the most on the line here? And Chris Blair is going to jump aboard to talk with us coming up at 2:15. LSU basketball got a win back on Tuesday, and they will go to College Station for an evening game coming up at, what's the name of College Station? It's Reed Arena, at Reed Arena, coming up on Saturday. Looks like we're having some trouble linking up with Luke, so I'll just get into my thoughts on that world of the SEC that we live in here. Again, I think that oftentimes college football fan bases can be echo chambers. If you're in the office in Lafayette or Shreveport or Mandeville, like, you're probably talking LSU or the Saints. That's the case most places. Like, if you're in Mississippi, yeah, you may have a Mississippi State fan and an Ole Miss fan. If you're in Alabama, you may have an Alabama fan and an Auburn fan. But, like, the blood runs purple and gold here in the state of Louisiana. So everyone's kind of hyper-focused on the exact same thing. And at times we don't really look outside of where we are. And as I just detailed, like, that doesn't mean that just because everybody else isn't okay, that's fine that LSU is not reaching its potential. That's not the point of this at all. The point of this was I was kind of looking up at LSU football, and I'm thinking, LSU fans are not happy after year 3 of Brian Kelly. And I don't think anybody involved with LSU football feels like LSU has reached the point that it needs to under Brian Kelly. He said implicitly, I'm here because it has the resources to win a national championship. He said in the post-game press conference this year, see you at the national championship. So this is not something that Brian Kelly's unaware of, that everybody else on that staff and in that locker room is unaware of. Everybody knows at LSU the standard is competing for championships, and they have not done that through 3 years. And because of that, Brian Kelly's approval level is, I think, low. But that can change pretty quickly. Just got to go win some games. So I wanted to look around the SEC and go, well, what coaches have a high approval rate? And I would suggest, sitting here, that there are 2 programs in the SEC that think, we got the guy, let's roll. I think Georgia feels that way. Kirby Smart's got 2 national championships. They almost never lose 2 games. This year they had the hardest schedule in the country, and they did lose 2 games. They still got into the playoff, and their backup quarterback went out there and lost the Sugar Bowl. But Georgia fans, anyone that's reasonable thinks we're good. Now, they're not the immortal team they were 3 years ago, but Georgia's got their guy. And I would suggest Texas feels like we got our guy. Steve Sarkisian has gotten Texas to playoff 2 years in a row. They're competitive in a new league. The NIL is rolling. They feel like Arch Manning's going to be good. Like, I think Texas fans feel like they haven't reached the top of the mountain, but they're in a good spot. I think those 2 programs think we got our guy. There are 2 programs that I think are right under that. Lane Kiffin has certainly elevated Ole Miss. He's elevated them from a doormat in the SEC West that never reached Atlanta to a nationally relevant program. However, they went out there this year and lost 3 football games, including 1 to Kentucky and 1 to Florida, with a team that they spent nearly $20 million on. So while I think that that's an elevation of the program, is everybody completely sold on Lane Kiffin? I don't know. That's a troubling thing when you've got Walter Nolan and Princey Umamielen leaving and Trey Amos leaving, and Quinshon Judkins is gone, and Jackson Dart's leaving, and Trey Harris is out of there. And I mean, they got to replace a lot of stuff. And I'm telling you, the 2 guys they got out of Baton Rouge, if you think that's going to fix things, I got news for you. So I'm not 100% sold that everybody thinks that Lane Kiffin is the guy. I think everyone in Knoxville, Tennessee feels like they've upgraded from Derek Dooley and Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt, certainly. But, okay, you're not beating Georgia. You got smashed in the shoe. You hadn't been to Atlanta. Like, it's better, but you got to take another step. So while I think Ole Miss and Tennessee feel pretty good about things, there's still some doubt there, and I don't know that the approval rate is higher than 80% there. Well, I think it is in Austin and Athens. After that, you've got 11 programs outside of LSU that I think have some real doubts here. Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt have had a nice year, but who's Missouri's biggest win this year? It's either 6-7 Oklahoma or Vanderbilt in Columbia in overtime. South Carolina, well, last year, South Carolina went 5-7, and Shane Beamer's 29-22. So, yeah, I mean, it could be worse, but they're not completely sold. They just went 5-7 a year ago. They just lost their bowl game to Illinois. And then you got Vanderbilt, who feels good about Clark Lee, but I don't care because it's Vanderbilt. And then you start talking about teams that may have like under 50% approval rating. Mike Elko's probably above that, but they did just disintegrate in November. Lost 4 of 5. Both teams in the state of Alabama, I think, have a far under 50% approval rating of their coach. Hugh Freeze has won squat in Auburn, and they think that what just happened with Kalen DeBoer is unthinkable, that you could possibly lose 4 games. And I think Arkansas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma are firing a coach before Christmas. So Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, Texas A&M, and then I hadn't even talked about Mississippi State, who didn't win a game this year in the league. You think that Billy Napier's safe because of what happened in November? They just wanted to run him out of town. That's 8 teams that I know are not very happy. Then what do you think about Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt? I would suggest, well, who really cares? Because they're not playing for the same thing LSU is. So it's the point I'm making here is like the sport, generally speaking, creates unhappy fan bases. I would suggest that far more than half of the SEC fan bases are at least uneasy, if not disgruntled, with the product of their football program. And it is not just the SEC. Like, look at the teams that just played in the playoff. Are we sure Penn State fans are happy because James Franklin lost the Big Ten championship game to Oregon and then beat SMU and Boise and then couldn't win in the game to get them to the game? Ohio State, 98% of the fan base wanted to fire Ryan Day 6 weeks ago. They're about to win the national championship. That's how quickly you can go from happy to unhappy and then back to happy. So the moral of this story is not for me to tell you, the LSU fan, hey, don't worry about it. Brian Kelly hadn't done it in 3 years. Like, nobody else is really doing it either. That is not the point. Not the point at all. The point is that this sport breeds unhappiness because so few teams reach where their expectation thinks they should be. Now, that said, it is time for Brian Kelly to do that, and I think everyone is well aware of that. You've now changed your approach 2 different times. Once, you overhauled the entire defensive staff. A second time, you went to the transfer portal harder than you ever have. And you've, to his credit, done that and altered the fabric of the football program entering 2025. I don't care if Ole Miss underachieved this year. I don't care if Tennessee hadn't climbed the mountain. I don't care if Missouri feels like they're doing really well. I don't care if Vanderbilt thinks they're about to go to 3 straight bowl games. I don't care what Shane Beamer does in South Carolina outside of when they come to Tiger Stadium next year. The point is, it's time to get that approval level back where it needs to be. I just wanted to add a little context for the LSU fan who only at the water cooler at the office or in the church pew or in the family group text or in the family dinner table or is only thinking about LSU all the time, to take a step back this time of year and go, you know, this is pretty common stuff. Doesn't make it okay. It just means that it is the case for most teams around the country, certainly those that have real expectations. I don't care what Washington State fans think about their football program. I don't even know what conference they're in. But I do think it is relevant at times, not when we walk out of Tiger Stadium after you've gotten beat by Alabama by 40 points and Jalen Milroe ran like crazy. That's not the time and place for this exercise, okay? That's the time and place to go, this is not acceptable. Something's got to change. That's okay. But this time of year, when we, as you all have heard me talk about my college football calendar, where most people are ticked off in November, and I just rattled off all the teams that would have been ticked in November, and then you get a new signing class in. Well, this guy's going to be awesome. That guy's going to be awesome. Look at these portal ads. Oh, you changed coordinators. That side of the ball is going to be way better. Then you go to spring practice and all your practice reports are positive. Then the strength coach gets out there in the summer and tells you that these guys are in the best shape they've ever been and that guy's recovered off his torn ACL and this all looks great. And then you get to fall practice and then it reaches a fever pitch. Everybody thinks that they're the sleeper team or they're got the dominant team and this quarterback's going to be awesome and this guy's going to take a next step. That's the natural progression of this thing. It happens everywhere, not just Baton Rouge, every year. And so we're restarting that right now. And so at this point in the calendar, I think it's reasonable for me as a guy who's covering LSU and certainly has LSU at the root of his entire interest, to go, how different, how big an outlier is LSU here? The answer is not. That's one piece of it. The other part of it is now it's time to become an outlier. Now it's time to become one of the teams that feels like things are on the right track. And they're saying the same thing in Tuscaloosa, and they're saying the same thing in Auburn. They're saying the same thing at Florida. They're saying the same thing at Ole Miss. Everybody, there are more teams now that have college football playoff aspirations, a more realistic goal, and it's time for LSU to climb that mountain, to make that happen. I just think let's just take a brief peek at what's going on elsewhere and see just how this sport actually works. Because I'm telling you that Ryan Day is going to be up with confetti falling all over the place on Monday, holding a trophy after they beat Notre Dame by 20 points. And you realize that that fan base felt this way 6 weeks ago. That's how quickly things turn. And I think it's fascinating. I think it's one of the great things about sports. Passion, energy, focus, support, all those things make sports great. They can also, in an echo chamber, create some toxicity. This is the time to kind of diffuse that a little bit. I personally think LSU's football team next year is going to be significantly better than the one we just saw. I did not think that in early November. Now I do. We'll see. Time will tell. We'll have all summer to talk about it. But I thought an exercise worthwhile. I'll have a column up on it at louisianasports.net coming up later this afternoon. Hopefully we can link up with Luke Johnson. I'd like to get that done, but we got to make contingency plans in case that can happen. So either way, we're going to talk some NFL in this next segment. If we can link up with Luke, we'll talk about the Saints and this coaching search that they're going through. If not, we'll talk about the 5 guys who have the most on the line in the NFL playoffs coming up over the next 4 weeks. That's all next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Just an incredible line of luxury vehicles over there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're thinking, I've never even seen Genesis of Baton Rouge, that's not terribly uncommon because they're not all that old. They hadn't been around as long as a lot of the dealerships in town, just a little over a year and a half at their current location. But they're Airline and Pico across from Women's Hospital. And if you get on by, their brand ambassadors are going to treat you like a guest. You're going to feel welcome. It's a first-class experience, and you'll learn that it's a first-class line of vehicles. Safety is incredibly important. The entire line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some were top safety picks plus. All the way from the sedan to the SUV, all the way from the high-end to the standard issue. All of them have the same safety features because that's not something that they mess around with at Genesis. Incredible company, an incredible dealership and operation here in Baton Rouge. Get on by and visit them. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you by. You can check out the inventory online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you. At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioneer Andrews Institute. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Luke Johnson covers those New Orleans Saints for The Advocate. Jumps aboard here as he does every Thursday. Luke, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. I'm going to leave this open-ended. Your thoughts on Mickey Loomis's press conference earlier this week?
I think he was trying to come out and put on a good face. I think he has been kind of feeling or understanding I don't really know what the right word is for it, but the general kind of distaste of the fan base with kind of the state of where things are right now with the Saints organization. I think he's been hearing that and feeling that. And I think he was trying to come out and put a good spin on it as much as he could. But I do think there was quite a bit of spin in that press conference. I'll just kind of leave it that way.
I think that's pretty fair. T-Bob had some comments about it on the morning show. We'll leave those right where they were said. But I found it pretty interesting. And one of the things that he talked about was kind of Derek Carr's future. Understand what that number means to the salary cap, whether he's on the team or not, and kind of your thoughts on what that decision is going to look like between the new coach, the Saints brass, and what the future may hold for the organization.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm the new coach, I'm definitely keeping him on, right? I mean, the alternative is to cut him and somehow find a way to hold on to $50 million in cap space on your team, and then also find somebody to play quarterback. This year's draft class is not very good, in my opinion. I think really the only two guys who you could really talk yourself into maybe potentially being a starting quality quarterback in the first round are probably going to be gone by the time you're picking at number 9. I don't think this is really a team that isn't any position whatsoever to mortgage any sort of future assets to move up in the draft, especially for two guys who I think, frankly, have a lot of question marks with their games, and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So I think the most likely outcome, if I'm a head coach coming in, Derek Carr is far from a perfect quarterback, but he's also not terrible as much as people want to say he is. He was pretty good last year. And I think pretty good the year before that whenever he was healthy. So you just gotta probably eat the big salary hit this year. You're going to do that regardless, and at least you might have a starting caliber quality quarterback on your roster if you're going to have the big huge cap hit on your team. Really, the question is to me is whether they continue to use his contract as a way to push down the 2025 cap. I think that's really the only question. Do they restructure him again, pushing money into the future again? They don't have to do it. They can do it at will. They don't have to. So if they do, then he's probably just going to play out his contract here, which is through next season.
Do you think the next coach will have a say on that decision as far as the contract and the restructuring and the adding years to it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I would be, at least let me say this, I would be surprised. I would be surprised if like a new coach comes in and has a say over cap management stuff. Maybe they come in and they say like, hey, I would rather be in a space where like we could have cap space. Let's bite a couple tough bullets here and get into a more reasonable situation. Like I could see that, but like as far as like the day-to-day decision making with how they manage the cap, I think it's still going to be down to Mickey Loomis and Kai Hurley. And really, that's Mickey's baby. Like you got to remember he was the cap guy before he became the GM. So like these decisions are kind of his purview. Kai is the manager of it, and he makes it all work. But this is still Mickey's game.
Do you believe truly that Mickey Loomis thinks that is working at this point when you look at their roster? I mean, that's the disconnect, I think, with the fans. And when he gets up there and starts talking, is like, we know that this is what you want to do, but you hadn't been any good in 4 years. And then I guess he can pin it on injuries. Do you believe he just thinks this is 90%? We don't stay healthy?
Yeah, this is the hard part, right? Like, I think anybody who's looking at this roster and the way it's put together right now would have a really, really hard time seeing a path for this thing being like functionally good. Like, yes, they have good players, and yes, a lot of those good players missed on. Yeah, they would have been a completely different team for sure if Derek Carr didn't miss 7 games and Rashid Shaheed didn't miss 10 games and Chris Olave didn't miss 7-8 games, whatever it was. Alvin Kamara didn't miss 3-4 games at the end of the year. Like, yeah, completely different team. Totally agree. But the problem with the cap being the way it is, and with paying, they're going to pay $50 million this year in dead cap money for 3 guys that haven't played since Michael Thomas and Jameis Winston are 2 of them. They haven't played on the team since 2023, and Marshawn Lattimore hasn't played since mid-2024. Being those guys are accounting for $50 million in dead cap money. Like, that's a problem, because when you start having injuries to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Derek Carr, guys who are important to you, like, you don't have the resources to build up a truly deep roster, especially when you are the type of team who, like the Saints, have just been trading up in the draft for years. Like, they have such a dearth of cheap young players on the team. And then on top of that, they have no flexibility to go out and sign cheaper, younger talent to fill out the roster. So it is absolutely on them. They can say whatever they want to about it, but like, they are complicit in this, 100%.
No doubt about that, for sure. Cam Jordan, any chance he takes a pay cut?
Never say never. He doesn't really strike me as the kind of guy to take a pay cut. I think there's a reason that he's not one of them that last year when they had a number of guys do it. And I don't think really guys like doing that. But sometimes, if the writing's on the wall, and maybe he could get more here even with a pay cut than he could get elsewhere, maybe he decides to do that. But he also just seems to me like a guy who out of principle wouldn't do that sort of thing. So we'll see how that plays out.
That's one of those deals where, like, I can't blame Cam Jordan and Derek Carr for that stance. Like, you've agreed to a contract, and it's to me, it's the organization's job to uphold that. I understand the goodwill that it gives when guys do take a pay cut to try to quote unquote win to help get more players. But like, I don't put that onus on those players.
Yeah, and anybody who says they should take a pay cut, that like would you take a pay cut at your place of work? Like, I don't care how much money these guys make. Like, that's just not how. Like, that is not a good precedent to set ever for anyone. It is, and especially with the way this union works and everything like that, and with the way contracts generally work in the NFL. If guys start taking pay cuts, it's just not a good. It's not a good precedent to set, like, across the league, and that's why people almost never, ever do it. And if my bosses are listening, I will never, ever take a pay cut. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the head coaching search. It's in its infancy. I think things have slowed down because we know that some of the targets on the Saints list are still playing football and can't interview with them in person. So, where do you sense things are right now?
I'm going to have something post tomorrow on our site. It'll be in our Sunday edition of the paper. I have Mike McCarthy, who hasn't even spoken to the Saints about the job. Mike McCarthy and Aaron Glenn, it's my two favorites right now. And then kind of right behind those two, Joe Brady, and then kind of behind him, Darren Rizzi, Cliff Kingsbury, and Kellen Moore. I think that's how I'd personally handicap it right now. And there's obviously like a lot of room for that stuff to change, because, let's just be real here. Aaron Glenn is a candidate literally everywhere right now. And I'm pretty sure he's interviewed with 4 other teams. I think the Raiders are the only one he hasn't interviewed with. Mike McCarthy, like the Bears, have shown significant interest in him. Joe Brady is a candidate a couple different places. Cliff Kingsbury might choose not to be a head coach next year at all. So like there's some ways this can go sideways a little bit. But I think if I'm the Saints, like the 2 top guys on my list are McCarthy for obvious reasons. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been very, very successful throughout his entire career. And Aaron Glenn, who, I'm not actually a huge fan of his coaching resume, but I think as a leader, as a culture setter, as somebody who has a lot of familiarity with the organization, both as a player and a coach, I think he's a really good fit, and especially for what they need right now.
I'm sure you've given no thought to this at all, but I'll toss it out there and see what your thoughts are. Do you have any idea where Dennis Allen might end up next year?
If I were him and the 49ers came calling, that's where I'd want to be. I think the Colts are an interesting one. They're the ones who've put in an interview request, and I think the other really interesting one to watch out for is Atlanta.
That'd be something.
It would really be something. Dennis has roots in Atlanta. That was where he started his coaching career, and it's also where Terry Fontenot's the GM.
Yeah.
I know they have a good relationship. The only problem with Atlanta would be they have a defensive minded head coach. I don't know if he would be the play caller there. But it's one to just like kind of keep an eye out on. So that's kind of probably how I would handicap it right there is, San Francisco, Indy, Atlanta, kind of in that order.
We'll see.
I think he'll have a job though. I don't think he's going to go through this cycle without one by the end of it.
I would agree with that too. All right, Luke, we appreciate some time. We'll talk next week.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Luke Johnson with The Advocate at @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter. He's all over this Saints coaching search. Man, if Dennis Allen went to Atlanta, I mean, that would be. I mean, that the Falcons have kind of picked off a lot of the Saints personnel over the last 5 years, both on the coaching staff and on the defensive side of the ball. If he were to go there, man, would that make him persona non grata in New Orleans? It's once he's free, I mean, he has no obligation to stay away from the Saints' rivals. He's been fired, so he's going to take a job where he thinks it's the best fit. But that would be something to see if that in fact did happen. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back and say goodbye to a legend next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. Talked to David Duvall earlier this morning. They're doing a lot of work on tub to shower conversions. It's what they do the most of. And if you're thinking, well, what is that? I never thought about it. Well, if you've got one of those like big 1990s jacuzzi tubs, it takes up a ton of space. You never get in it. Think about how much room that would free up in your bathroom to put a walk-in shower. Take that tub all the way out, put a glass walk-in shower in, changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom, add a little value to your home as well, and just make your bathroom a little more pleasant place to be. It's something they do a ton of, and you can see pictures of their great work at OneBathAndClosets.com. So if you have a tub, you don't use the tub, hey, why not go ahead and do that tub to shower conversion? David Duvall and his team are happy to help you with that. They do have financing options available for those renovations and remodels. You can get 0% for 18 months if you qualify for it. So start with that free consultation at OneBathAndClosets.com. You can see pictures of their great work. You can see testimonials from satisfied clients and get that process started with that brand new bathroom or just a tub to shower conversion today. It's David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets, OneBathAndClosets.com.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets.
Top of the ninth, leading 10-7. Bases loaded, 2 down. And Rick Vaughn has come on to try and nail it down against Felipe Aguilar, a dangerous right-handed batter. Here's the pitch.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close? Hello again, everybody. Harry Doyle here, welcoming all you friends of the feather to another season of Indians baseball. A lot of new faces in Chief Wahoo's tribe this year as they take on the defending American League champs, the New York Yankees. And hopefully we'll have some of the names that go with those faces before their first at-bat. Anyway, listen to the roar of the crowd as the Indians take the field. Yes, sir, they love this club here in Cleveland. Just a reminder, fans, about Die Hard Night coming up here at the stadium. Free admission to anyone who was actually alive the last time the Indians won a pennant.
Oh, man. That is Harry Doyle, played by Bob Uecker. Major League, of course, the movie. There are far more iconic lines there. Dynamite drop-in money. Those broadcasting classes sure are paying off. There's lots. It was a phenomenal role and just a tiny, tiny part of the legendary life and career of Bob Uecker. Bob Uecker passed away this morning at the age of 90. And I think most people know Bob Uecker from Major League. And that's certainly where I was first introduced to Bob Uecker. But for those that aren't aware, Bob Uecker was the voice of the Milwaukee Brewers for an unthinkably long time. He spent 54 years on the mic for the Milwaukee Brewers. I despise the Milwaukee Brewers. I hate the Brewers. Ryan Braun, can't stand him. Prince Fielder at the time, couldn't stand him. Christian Yelich is my arch nemesis. I despise the Brewers. Bob Uecker is a treasure and a legend at what he did at the mic. I'm guessing almost all of you don't know the fact that Bob Uecker, for most of the 54 years that he called Brewers baseball, did so by himself. He did not have a color man. They just opened the microphone and Bob Uecker called the game, did the color, read the stats, did the pregame, did the postgame, did it all. And as someone who has a tiny bit of experience doing that with a color man or as the color man, filling all of that radio time for 162 games in baseball is remarkable. It's unbelievable. And to do it with the grace and wit and delivery that Bob Uecker did it for better than 5 decades is incredible. Keep in mind, he never retired. He called the Brewers last year. He was 89 years old. I don't know at this point what the cause of death is. That has not been, to my knowledge, released. But Bob Uecker is a baseball legend. He was incredibly witty with his deliveries about his playing career, which, by the way, he hit 200 in the big leagues, which he loved to make fun of. Hitting 200 in the big leagues, not that easy to do for any just normal person. But he made the big leagues, hit 200, got out of it pretty quickly, and became a broadcaster. And he started in television in Atlanta in 1971, and then started doing the Milwaukee Brewers radio broadcast. And that's the second longest continuous tenure with one team among active Major League Baseball announcers prior to his death. That trailed just the Royals' Denny Matthews, who's been doing it since 1969 and still is today. So I think most people will know Bob Uecker for just a bit outside, but there was a lot more to Bob Uecker. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a legend in the game. And again, despite my disdain for the team that he called for so very long, I became accustomed. I listened to, via my MLB app in the early days, I would listen to Cubs-Brewers games, and you had to listen to the home call. Just it was all that was available until, we've reached now the point where you can watch all the games, and there's a time where that wasn't possible, and I had to listen to Uecker do the Brewers, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him, although I didn't love his tone, because if he was really happy, that means my team had a significant issue, and he was real sad, that meant my team was doing something really well. But the it's great that the movie role came along so that everyone could understand how great he was, but certainly just a small part of a 54-year run calling the Milwaukee Brewers. So Bob Uecker, dead at the age of 90 today, certainly an icon in the game. Now you've got in fairly tight proximity, you had Vin Scully passing away, and then Bob Uecker, both guys working well into their 80s as play-by-play men in Major League Baseball. All right, that's it for hour number one here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Rouses Markets. Get on by Rouses and get your king cakes. They're going to make 600,000 of them. They got one for you. Make that happen in the coming weeks as we get into the middle of carnival season. If you missed any of the first hour, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find the Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Heather Dinich, big piece on the college football playoff. Are there changes coming? We'll talk about it in 35 minutes. Chris Blair will be along in 20 minutes as well. We'll step aside for SportsCenter. Coming back with more Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and 7 have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environmental impact to help protect our planet. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Legendary Brewers broadcaster Bob Uecker has died. Uecker played in the big leagues as a backup catcher for 6 years, including a World Series ring with the Cardinals, but later became a comedian, actor, and pitchman. Veteran broadcaster Bob Costas on what the Brewers players thought of Uecker.
They considered him one of them. He often pitched batting practice in uniform well into his 70s. He loved being in the clubhouse. He had his own locker in the clubhouse. When the Brewers made the playoffs, they voted him a full share, which of course he then in turn sent to charity.
Bob Costas on the Michael Kay Show. Bob Uecker was 90 years old. Second-round winners today at the Australian Open include 19-year-old American qualifier Lerner Tien, who knocked out the 5-seed Daniil Medvedev in 5 sets. Other American winners, Taylor Fritz, Ben Shelton, Emma Navarro, Madison Keys, and Danielle Collins. Coverage continues at 9 Eastern tonight on ESPN2.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming on Friday. Their teams are huge underdogs, but I'll tell you what Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud will need to do to keep it close. It's Unsportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Chris Blair with us in 15 minutes. Let's talk some NFL playoffs here. I think there are 5 folks that have the most riding on these NFL playoffs as we move forward. The wild card round is behind us. We've kind of trimmed the fat a little bit to an extent. And now you're kind of looking at the cream of the NFL crop as we progress forward. So I'll start at the bottom at number 5, and I'll go to number 1, who I think has the most to gain and or lose. I think those are kind of the same thing as we get this far into the deal. Let's go with number 5. I've got Dan Campbell at number 5. Obviously, very important. They had a great team last year, went out to San Francisco and couldn't quite get it done. They've got another great team this year. I mean, Jared Goff's not like past his prime. They've got a really good roster. The Colster's very good. So I'm not suggesting this is it for Dan Campbell, but I think most people would look at the NFC and suggest that even with all the injuries, the Lions have the best team. I'll hear your case for Philadelphia, absolutely. But this is a big spot for Dan Campbell to climb the mountain. He was a guy that didn't get a shot for a number of years. The Dolphins gave him that interim tag, and then he goes to New Orleans, and then all of a sudden he's getting his opportunity with the Lions, and now he's got a team that's as good as anybody in the NFL, and this is a big, big spot for Dan Campbell. So I don't think a massive amount to lose here for Dan Campbell, but I do think a good amount to gain. We go to number 4, and there's not a ton to lose for these guys, but when you're talking about immortality, and I will group them together here, Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes have a ton to gain here because they are attempting to climb the ultimate mountain. Their legacies, as far as the floor, is set. All-time greats. Andy Reid has done it at 2 different stops, sustained excellence. No, didn't quite get over the hump in Philly, but consistently knocked on that door and has proven that he's one of the greatest coaches in the history of the sport. And Mahomes now is kind of competing against a very, very, very small number of quarterbacks. It's your Bradshaws and your Aikmans and certainly your Bradys. as far as the greatest of all time in terms of championships. And he's competing, I think, with Brady to try to get there. Who knows how long this can last? How long does Andy Reid want to do it? How long is Kelsey going to be there? Can the defense continue to drag this offense along as Mahomes kind of, operates it expertly? I've never seen a team that, let's call it what it was. This is a 15-1 football team. They went 15-2, but it's a 15-1 football team that has been talked about as negatively as the Chiefs, and I've been part of that. And I think it could be an issue in the playoffs. We'll see. But they won 15 freaking games in the regular season. So they're chasing immortality. They're not trying to define their legacy like Dan Campbell, like honestly the next three guys on this list. But they're chasing something bigger than that, and I think that's fascinating to watch. So that would be number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list is a unicorn for this list. It's Nick Sirianni. Okay, has there ever been a coach in more turmoil from the city or like the team? The press conferences are weird. The media, it's just all weird for a team that I think everybody looks at and goes, yeah, they could win the Super Bowl. Like, Jalen Hurts has been in this situation before, and like they could win the Super Bowl, and everybody thinks this guy is bad or an idiot or like abrasive or the city doesn't like. I don't know what's going on, but if they win the next 3 games, I think all that has to go away, right? Like, you can't win the Super Bowl and everybody go, yeah, but I hate this guy. This is a truly, I think, in this sport right now, a unique situation where there's a sustained level of success. The Eagles it fell apart last year. I don't know what happened after Thanksgiving. I don't know. They ended up going to Tampa and they just couldn't play football. I don't know what happened. But they've corrected it. They're a great team this year. Look at the record. Look at the running game. Look at the defense. The personnel has been awesome. Jeffrey Lurie has consistently put a great product out there, and Sirianni's coached it well this year, I think. Like, I'm not at practice. I don't know. I'm not on the headset. I can't speak to the entire hierarchy of the organization. But, like, they all hate this guy, and they're as good as anybody in the league. So, to me, this is a pretty big spot for him. Because, like, if they lose this weekend, do I know if he's going to get fired or not? I have no idea. I don't know. I can't think of a situation quite like this that Nick Sirianni is in. So, he's number 3. I got Dan Campbell at 5, Reid Mahomes at 4, Nick Sirianni at 3. Number 2, I got Josh Allen. I don't think anybody right now has any misconceptions that Josh Allen has issues in the playoffs. Nobody's blaming him that they went to Kansas City a couple years ago and he scores the touchdown to give them the lead, and Mahomes goes right down the field in like 8 seconds, gets a field goal, and then beats him in overtime, and he never gets the ball. Like, that, to me, not Josh Allen's fault. He's lost to Burrow, yes, in the playoffs, but I think that most people feel like Josh Allen has been up to the task in the playoffs. They just haven't gotten to the Super Bowl and certainly haven't won it. So there's a ton on the line for him. He's an MVP level player. He's an elite talent. I think the fan base is completely wrapped their arms around him. And while I thought this was a huge rebuild, Beck thought, no, the Bills will be really, really good. Well, turns out the Bills really, really good. So there's a ton on the line here for Josh Allen.
I think it's a great observation.
Hey, thanks, Coach McMahon. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think that this is a huge spot for Josh Allen. Obviously, I've got him at number 2. And then the guy that he'll see on the other sideline on Sunday, unequivocally, this is the biggest spot for Lamar Jackson. Because you can poke holes in his postseason resume. Now, I have watched Lamar Jackson in the regular season far too often for my liking. Y'all know I've been a diehard Bengals fan for decades, and by decades, I mean 5 years. And I've watched the Bengals play the Ravens a lot, and Lamar Jackson is freaking awesome. He's hard to sack. He's hard to tackle. He's accurate. He's fast. He's a nightmare on third down. They're really good. But his playoff resume is not that great. They scored 10 points against Kansas City last year. Then you go back to a game at Buffalo in 2020. They scored 3 points. Entering last week, he had thrown 6 touchdowns and been picked off 6 times in playoff action. Now, he was good enough last week, 16 of 21. That's 76%. Threw for $175 and 2 touchdowns. It was very evident that Pittsburgh wouldn't be able to score, so why push it? He ran the ball a good bit, ran for 81 yards. he's sensational, and he should be the MVP, and he's a Hall of Famer. But you got to do a little bit more in the playoffs, and that's a reasonable thing. I personally think he will. Spoiler for tomorrow's show, I think Baltimore's going to win that game. But he's got to do it. There is no player right now in the NFL who has got more on their plate and more to gain and more to be, I guess, taken away at the same time than Lamar Jackson based on his regular season performance and what he's done in the playoffs. He hasn't been good enough in the playoffs. And I don't think there's even a close second. You could try to throw Josh Allen in there if you wanted to. I don't think there's a close second. Start looking at coaches. I don't think there's a close second to anybody in these playoffs than Lamar Jackson. He's got to get it done when the lights are the brightest. And that doesn't necessarily apply to a game against Pittsburgh, against a team that can't really move the ball. It will apply because you're going to have to score to beat Buffalo. And I think they can. You're going to have to score to beat Buffalo. Beck, you're looking at my list here. These are my top 5. That's my story. I'm going to stick to it. Is there a massive flaw in this list?
I don't think so. I guess you could say maybe Sean McVay with the Rams, just because I don't think many people expected them to get here.
He's got one though in his back pocket.
He does have one, but it's been a few years, and the Rams haven't been.
What
great.
about Jaden?
Jaden, I don't think so. I think this is kind of like Joe Burrow when they had their playoff run, made it to the Super Bowl. No one really expected them to be there. I don't think many people expect the Commanders expected them to do anything. I mean, you and I both were not surprised that they beat the Bucs. The Bucs are not very good.
Correct.
But this is now, to me, it's just they're just playing with house money at this point.
Okay.
I don't think they really have
Jalen Hurts.
That I don't think so either, because he's made it before too. So I don't think he's got much to prove there. I mean,
is it fair that I've put Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid on this list?
Yes, I think so, because the defense has really carried them so far. For the most part, through this season, the defense has played really well. The offense, not so much. So
it's just odd to me that the Chiefs can win every game 21-17.
It is.
Like they win every week 21-17.
Yeah, and so it's like, can they continue to do that? I think they'll probably be the Texans, because the Texans have been pretty good this year, but they've also just been a little more up and down.
Tell you what the Texans have, probably even more so than the Chiefs. They got dudes.
They do.
Stingley, Nico Collins, Mixon, Will Anderson, like they got dudes on that football field. They don't have the dude. That's 15 in red. But like I look at the Chiefs and I'm like, yeah, Kelsey's going to the Hall of Fame, but like, what is that? The Chiefs have Chris Jones. Chris Jones is unblockable. But it's the Texans probably have like star for star more power than the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just better as a collection of talent. I think it's going to be an awesome weekend. It starts up at 3:30 on Saturday, and we'll get you prepped for the whole thing on tomorrow's show, as we always do on Fridays. When we come back, let's talk some hoops with Chris Blair. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa rocking and rolling for 40 years at Boudreaux's Electrical. Justin, their son, kind of taking the reins down there in Napoleonville. If you're thinking Napoleonville, I don't live that close to Napoleonville. They're not going to come to my house. They will, I promise. And they have another location in Gonzales as well. So as long as you're in our listening area, they can help you with your Generac home standby generator. They're a certified Generac dealer. They are a premier Generac generator dealer. That means that you're talking in the top 3% nationwide in Generac generator sales. You're going to have a full-time employee doing the installation, highest quality in tubing and wiring, and the majority of that installation is going to be underground, and you get the peace of mind of knowing you're not going to lose power when those storms roll through. You can give them a call at 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562, or 225-300-9389 in Gonzales, 225-300-9389. I give you the easy way every single day. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com. That's BoudreauxElectrical.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road,
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouses Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Get on by Rouses, do your weekend grocery shopping. In fact, I'll be at Rouses tomorrow, Burbank and Lee, giving away hats, cups, gift cards, and talking some sports. Hopefully it's a lovely Friday afternoon. I haven't checked the weather. I'm hoping that it's better. Apparently the weather's supposed to be awful next week, which I'm not thrilled about. We got
low of 27 on Tuesday.
I'm less concerned about that, more concerned about the precipitation, and that's because we
There's
could
a
have
chance of that too.
Daycare closings. We can't have that. That's just not gonna work for the Palmers. We need to get that in gear. So
you can bring Mars you can bring him to the office.
That would be great.
Yeah.
He's super well behaved.
We can sit him in the chair across from you.
Yeah, he's great at sitting down doing nothing.
Yes.
He's always real quiet.
That should work out.
Super cooperative. Yeah, awesome idea by you. Actually, I will say, if I put a tablet in front of him and gave him like some monster trucks or whatever, he would probably not look up for 2 hours. That's the way that goes. His mom doesn't like that, though, so we'll try to avoid that if we possibly can. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, joins us every Thursday, does so on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how we doing?
I'm great. I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited to see snow in southeast Louisiana for just the second time since I've been here.
No.
I am so fired up for it.
I don't want to see it ever again. Not no use for it at all. Just creates a bunch of problems for us because we don't know what to do when it starts snowing down here. Got to close all the roads. It's a disaster.
You know what's funny? I don't know if I told you this last week, but when we were in Missouri, we've all asked why Missouri is in the SEC.
Yes.
They don't seem to fit. So when we go to Missouri, it snows a foot and the whole city shuts down, which shocked me because I'm like, well, I'm sure they're used to it. The roads will be salted and we'll be moving freely. And I was told they don't know how to handle snow. And I thought, well, there's the one reason I found that they should fit in the SEC because none of us know how to handle snow. So there you go.
They're in. Perfect. All right. Let's talk some hoops. Tigers get on the winning side of things on Tuesday night in the Assembly Center. I thought pretty gritty effort. They leaned on their senior guards. What'd you see from courtside?
No, I think it all started with their physicality, Hunt. I mean, if you remember the first half at Ole Miss, I was pleasantly surprised to see that we were, toe-to-toe in the grill of Ole Miss in the same way the Rebels, who we knew would be that way defensively. I thought LSU matched them in that first half, and it's a 2-point lead, 28-26. There were no offensive records going to be broken that day by Ole Miss. At least it looked like it through the first 20 minutes. Not so much in the first 6 minutes of that second half. And that's, Coach McMahon told me that immediately following the game. He mentioned it again on Monday night at his show. And he said, there's a lot of things we can improve on. He said, but we're not going to get anywhere until we get, more physical and match the physicality of basically every team in the SEC, because that's what you're going to get night in, night out. And I thought Tuesday night against Arkansas, it was clear they were the aggressor. And even though they were down, again, 2 at the half, that final 3 or 4 minutes of the first half, I thought LSU was the better team. And they took a page out of Ole Miss. They kept the physicality, and they were, they dictated the terms of engagement in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half. And, were able to wrestle away some of the, the team stats, eventually build a 9-point lead, and they were able to hold on for a 78-74 victory. Now, they had way too many turnovers again. Double-figure turnovers certainly doesn't help you in SEC play, but they held their own on the glass. They turned Arkansas over, and the Razorbacks were one of the top teams in the country blocking shots, and LSU outdid them 11-6. So I just thought physicality was the difference. Obviously, it helps when you shoot the ball a little bit better, but I think if you play hard-nosed defense and you're physical, that will put you in a lot of games, including the one this coming Saturday against Texas A&M, because that's what you're going to see in Buzz Williams' team.
No doubt. And you mentioned the block shots for Arkansas. Gordy Rush here guarantees got this dope on 1-3 on ESPN, who came on pregame and said, look, this team blocks way too many shots for LSU to run in there, and with those underside guards, it's not going to work. They're going to get those shots blocked. And he felt pretty good about that when LSU was 1 from 13 from the floor to start the game. But eventually they shot 28 free throws, so it paid off. I did not think that was a good plan at all. It worked out.
Yeah, we talked about it Monday, and when Coach McMahon was talking about their rim protection, I made the comment of, well, that obviously means that LSU's got to be very smart when they get deep in the lane around the rim, probably use some shot fakes. And again, he agreed, because if you want to get an open look, that's really the only way to do it with Adu and Thero down there. But credit to LSU. I mean, Derek Fountain, I thought, was a huge spark in the first half, just simply because he was putting his head down and driving, going up for a shot in rhythm, but he got to the line and made 6 free throws. And, as it turned out, those were big plays when you add up in totality. And, there were a ton of times where they went right at Arkansas. Sometimes they got called for the foul, more times than not. There were a few times when they didn't. But as you said, the numbers bear out. They shot the ball extremely well. And, it's interesting you bring that aspect of the game up, because the two things Matt said, number one, physicality, and number two, we shoot at a very high rate from the free throw line. The problem is in the first 3 conference games, we're not getting there enough. So, if those were the two things you wanted to improve on, I think you got to be happy that that's what the coach called for and that's what the team delivered.
No question. Cam Carter and Jordan Sears took more than half of LSU's field goals. Is that the best formula moving forward?
I probably. I mean, Coach Brady talks about it all the time, and he said it since really the first or second game of the year, that you're going to have Cam Carter. He doesn't have to have a career night every night, but you're going to have to count on him to get 20 plus, which I think we got 8 or 9 of those 20 plus performances so far this year. And I think you can count on, Jai Bailey being consistent and giving you 8 points, 6 to 8 rebounds. So then if you get Sears in that 12, 15, 16 range, and then you're able to get the performance from Collins, get a little extra from Derek Fountain, and that could mean only 4 to 6 points, maybe 4 to 5 rebounds. I think that's kind of the method. I mean, your backcourt's going to have to show up every night, because you're going to have to count on 2 or 3 of the bigs combining for 15 to 20 points.
I haven't looked in the last 2 days, but my assumption is that A&M probably still leads the country in offensive rebounding. They did so last year, and it's kind of a hallmark of Bud Williams' team. They're at least in the top 5 if they're not literally number 1. How does LSU keep them off the glass on Saturday?
Well, it's a good thing that A&M's got that going for them, because since they've changed the block charge emphasis, that was one of the things they used to hang their hat on, was having the most charges. But if you see a charge nowadays in college basketball, it's quite the rarity. I thought LSU did a better job, even against Ole Miss at times, especially in the first half. I thought they did a much better job against Arkansas in minimizing the offensive rebounds. It's fundamental stuff. I mean, it's body on body, and for LSU, it's got to be 5. I mean, it's hard to leak out, and that's kind of the fine line I think LSU is battling. Is we want to get more transition buckets. If you're not a very good defensive rebounding team, not only are you giving your opponent second chance opportunities, but if you bring all 5 to rebound, you're probably going to lose those opportunities for a long outlet and transition buckets. But when you're facing a team as prolific as Texas A&M is on the offensive glass, it's probably one of those things you just got to, deal with. You got to kind of take that off the table. Look, we're not going to get a lot of runouts, but let's make sure we get a body on a body and we don't allow them, 18 offensive rebounds to result in 20-plus points.
You've seen some crazy stuff over there at Reed Arena. Tremont Waters throwing them in from 35 feet to win the game. And, of course, last year nobody expected LSU to go there and win, and LSU did it. LSU's had some success over there.
They really have, and, I think all LSU fans and certainly A&M fans are, on the Wade Taylor watch.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, Texas A&M's still a formidable team just the way they play Buzz's system. So it's not as if he's the only link that matters, but he certainly makes an impact if he's not on the floor. And all we've been able to gather just from public reports are day to day. So, we'll see when the availability report comes out, I guess, on Friday, and then they'll update it prior to the start of the game as to whether or not he's questionable, probable, or out. But, if you're LSU, they've had success over there. And I think without Wade Taylor, they probably still got to play a better game than they did on Tuesday night. But if they're able to really play at a high level, I think there's every expectation they can go over there and pull up what I think would be considered an upset. And, losing that game to Vandy was tough because you dropped that home game. You got to find a way to steal one on the road. They weren't able to do it at Missouri. Texas A&M may be their first chance for a while, at least on paper, to do that because, as you know, what waits in the wings is going to be awfully tough.
Sure is. Tell all my friends in College Station I said hey.
Oh, I can't wait. It's looking forward to the trip tomorrow. Should be another fantastic 36 hours in Bryan College Station.
We'll talk to you next week.
You got it.
He's Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. He'll be on the call with John Brady for LSU and Texas A&M from Reed Arena in College Station on Saturday evening. All right, when we come back, I think interesting stuff. We all know that the college football playoff is ever evolving. It's going to change. Heather Dinich spoke to a bunch of sources, some on, some off the record, about the immediate future of the college football playoff. What does it mean for LSU? I'll talk about all that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. As I mentioned a couple times, I was with Jonathan Carver and his entire team at Highland Insurance Group on Tuesday morning, had a great conversation with them. Got a little bit into the weeds with insurance, but that's okay. I don't have to do it every single day, so I'm okay doing it from time to time. They do it every single day. We were talking about those tragic wildfires that are going on over in Los Angeles, and we can feel that effect. It's going to hurt some property insurance carriers significantly, and it may be yours, even though you're not directly impacted at your property. But they may have to increase premiums to recoup losses. And if that's the case and your insurance rate is not great moving forward, you'd like a second set of eyes on it, the Highland Insurance Group would love to help you out with that. Maybe they can't help you directly with the property, but there may be some other pieces to your policy that don't respond correctly. They're experts. They can tell you where you can maybe increase some coverage, maybe save some funds. It's all about dollars and cents to a lot of people, but you got to get a little bit deeper into the weeds to truly understand all of it. They do at the Highland Insurance Group. Call them. They're right here in Baton Rouge, or go to the website, HighlandIG.com. It's Jonathan Carbo and his team, a trusted insurance broker right here in Baton Rouge. Find them at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Loomis for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets.
I'll tell you this. I have really enjoyed watching the college football playoff unfold. Not only the actual playoff games, but the last month of the season I found to be very, very compelling. Yes, it was disheartening as an LSU fan. That's the most important thing to me. It's always going to be the most important thing to me. And that part of it stunk because LSU played their way right on out of the conversation. But I thought the conversation was interesting. And it didn't take me a long time once they set the playoff to look at that and go, that's not right. Because under no circumstance do I need to look at Boise State and Arizona State catching buys as top 4 seeds in the country. Y'all know that. Y'all have heard me say it. I don't think it's a controversial take. I don't think Ohio State hammering Tennessee and Notre Dame beating Georgia and Texas losing to Ohio State means that, well, the SEC's not that good. And look, Boise, that's fine. They had a competitive game. They could have had a fumble return for a touchdown. They got called back. Like, it would have been fine. Like, no. Cool your jets. Let's have cooler heads prevail. Let's look at the last 50 years of data and suggest that we know what teams play at elite level, where conferences they come from, and which ones don't. And I'm not saying that we have to weigh in 1997 when we're looking at the playoff in 2026. But what I'm telling you is we know who the championship teams are and what they look like. And I'm not saying that we need to take 8 teams and break off from everybody and tell Mississippi State and Michigan State and Boston College, everybody to kick rocks and, hey, we're taking Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, LSU, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Texas A&M. We're taking 10 teams and that's the whole league. I'm not saying that. But I understand that some conferences are at one level and some conferences are not at that level. And that was very, very apparent when we looked at the playoffs. So it's not perfect. And it's going to evolve and it's going to change. And Heather Dinich from ESPN has got a story up at ESPN.com right now talking about what changes may happen, how quickly can they happen, and what changes what they may be. And so some of this is on the record, some of it's not, but I highlighted some of the key quotes from the story. You can read the whole thing again at ESPN.com. But one is it says, it was a high-ranking college football playoff source says it's not impossible to change something for this coming season, meaning 2025. But I don't see it happening in January, and if you wait until April, I don't know that you can do it for this calendar year. That right there suggests we're going to run this back. We're going to do what we did this past year in 2025. 4 highest-ranking conference champions will get byes, and then we'll seed the rest of them right after that. Now, Oklahoma Athletic Director Joe Castiglione, a former college football playoff selection committee member, said on the record, the seeding needs to change, and it needs to change fast. He said the 5 highest-ranked conference champions should still be rewarded with automatic bids, but they need to only get a first-round bye if they're one of the committee's top 4 teams. This is a quote from Castiglione. That, to me, is a big flaw. The seeding has to be based on the ranking. And if you did that this past year, you would have had the top 4 seeds coming from 2 conferences. You would have had Oregon, you would have had Penn State, you would have had Georgia, you would have had Texas. That would have been your top 4, and they would have gotten the byes. It would have been number 1 Oregon, number 2 Georgia, number 3 Texas, number 4 Penn State. Now, this is a quote from Boise State Athletic Director Jeremiah Dickey. This is where you're going to start to get me bristling a little bit, but that's predictable when Boise State starts talking. He said, ultimately, they may change the system on us based on us getting a bye, but I feel we earned it. And just like everyone else, we had to win each week and compete. I think it's awesome, and I hope it does stay the same. Now, I'm not going to yell at Jeremiah directly because Jeremiah has a job, and he will lose his job if he goes on the microphone and says, yeah, we're not that good, but we'll take the bye, but probably you should give it to the SEC team. He's not going to say that. I don't expect him to say that. But we all understand that that's a ridiculous thing to say. It's utterly absurd for anyone to stand here and suggest that Boise State deserves the same thing that Oregon does for beating Ohio State and beating Penn State, while Boise State's out here playing UNLV and Utah State. Those 2 things aren't the same. Don't tell me about being a champion. Don't tell me you just play who's on the schedule. We know who's on the schedule. The teams on Boise State's schedule are atrocious. They're awful. They play rent-a-wins every single September and get their butts kicked every single September. They stunk in the 90s. They stunk 5 years ago. They stink right now. That's the breaks. So we're not going to reward the group of 5 champion because Tulane and Army played a close game. Forget it. This is not a charity event. We're trying to crown a champion. You want to put them in at the back half? Fine. I'll live with it begrudgingly. You want to give them a bye? Forget about it. No shot. That's got to change. Everybody knows it. I know it. You know it. It's not even debatable. So that's one thing that is going to come eventually. It can't come this coming year, but it's going to come eventually. Now, the other piece to this, and we're getting into this self-serving talk that Dinich is getting from these people who have to serve the organizations they represent. One of those is, let me get this right, Nick Carparelli. He is the bowl season executive director. That is not a great job to have at this current juncture. Would we all agree? I think so. He's more in favor of taking these home playoff games and putting them at bowl games so people will watch them on TV. Listen to this gem of a quote from our friend Nick Carparelli, the bowl season executive director. I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the construct of this new playoff was that the home games would alleviate some of the travel burden on fans. The average fan who goes to a game in South Bend, Indiana or State College, Pennsylvania doesn't live there, right? They're traveling to their home games. I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories of people who have said, I'd rather go see my team play in a warmer environment than have to go there, meaning the home stadium. Be quiet, Nick. An LSU fan from Lafayette doesn't live in Baton Rouge. The same as the guy from Hammond or Breaux Bridge or Thibodaux or Shreveport. But it's a whole heck of a lot cheaper to drive down the 195 miles and stay with Aunt Michelle or Brother Bob or the one hotel for the night on Saturday than it is to fly to Atlanta or the Rose Bowl or Miami. That's insane. These are state universities where the overwhelming majority of the alums and the fans are in the state. That is far more convenient from a travel perspective. And oh, by the way, people want to see Michigan in Death Valley in Tiger Stadium. They want to see Texas go to the Shoe. They want to see Florida State travel out and play USC. They want Oregon at Notre Dame. We don't care to watch these teams play in Orlando. Nobody thinks this way. Now, I get it. Nick has a job to do, so he's not even being truthful. He's just trying to find an angle here. And sure, there are LSU fans that live in San Diego and Charlotte, and it's not that convenient to get to Tiger Stadium for them. That's not who we're talking about here. It's a small minority. So that point holds no water. We want more games at home sites. Am I petrified about the day that comes when LSU's got to go to Ann Arbor in late December? Yeah, petrified. It's going to be like 8, and all my dudes from Opelousas and the North Shore and the West Bank in New Orleans are going to freeze, and we're probably going to lose. Like, that's terrifying to me, but it's part of the sport. UCLA had to come down here in September and melt. It just is what it is. But that was the part of the article that I read and actually laughed out loud at Nick Carparelli's thought that, hey, it's really expensive to go to these home games. They want to go to a better spot. I don't think so. What about conference championship games? Well, y'all have heard me be pretty adamant about these things. I don't care about the Mountain West champion or the Conference USA or Sun Belt champion. Don't care to see them play football ever again for all my days. Y'all know where I stand on that. Obviously, everybody wants more home games. It's really cool when Notre Dame's hosting a playoff game and Tennessee's invading the Shoe, and like all that's awesome. These are very, very standard takes, and they're strong takes by me. I feel strongly about them. I can't give you a great take on the conference championship games. If we're going to reward the winner, it feels like that game has to mean something to reward the winner. And if you're just going to let all the losers in, it's hard. It's hard. I don't want a sport that means it's more positive for you to miss the conference championship game a la Tennessee this year than it is to go play in one. And I would be okay with eliminating them, but you're never going to do that because there's too much money at stake. Because those conference championship games, while every once in a while Northwestern or Missouri or South Carolina sneaks in, Duke got in one year, you're always going to get Ohio State and Michigan and Georgia and Florida and Bama and LSU and Texas and Florida State and Clemson and Miami. And like there's teams are always going to show up, and that's good theater. But I don't have a great answer for you. I haven't sat there for hours on end trying to figure it out other than just not play them, and we'll take everybody in a representative sample size of 12 games, and everybody's played the same 12 games, and then we'll pick. But I understand that that's not a realistic solution, so why give it any thought? I don't know. I don't have a good frame of reference on conference championship games and a good solution. Like, I realize it's good to let the champs get in. If we're just going to say the loss doesn't matter to the teams that lost, is that reasonable? Especially when you're looking at Texas this year, who didn't mount any great wins. They went to College Station and beat a 4-loss team. Went to Michigan, beat a 6-loss team. You know, that's part of their resume is they did play that game against Georgia and didn't win it. That one's tough to me. I'll be very, very candid with you. That one is very tough. And the last thing there is do we expand? And do they go to a 14-team format that would have 3 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams, 2 ACC teams, 2 Big 12 teams, and 3 more slots dedicated to Group of 5, Notre Dame as a qualifier if they get in, and a true at-large. So that would leave 1 true at-large with Notre Dame. And that's, again, why I don't like Notre Dame's status in college football, where we have to put a caveat in for them every single time. It drives me nuts. But that 14-team playoff this year, if we have 3 for each of the SEC and Big Ten, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 3 slots for Group of 5, Notre Dame, and an at-large, that's 14. This year, that would have netted us Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Arizona State, Iowa State, SMU, Clemson, Notre Dame, Boise, and Indiana, I think. So you're looking at Iowa State being the ad and everything else basically staying the same. Again, I don't need 2 slots guaranteed to the Big 12. I think that's ludicrous. Iowa State's resume does not warrant them being in there. And I probably wouldn't have put Indiana in either. And I certainly wouldn't put Boise in. So that's not perfect. I think every time we try to please everybody, you're watering things down. You can point me towards Cam Scadaboo and Arizona State all you want. You can tell me SMU had a good team all you want. You can tell me that Indiana was good all you want. I'm not listening. I want to watch the big boys play. I'm not going to get in my way, I don't think. But I do think there is change coming in the near future that is going to alter what we saw this year, specifically starting with seeding and ultimately probably letting more teams in the playoff. I don't have a solution for the conference champions, but I think we're moving in that direction. Although, in 2025, you're getting status quo. So, if you're LSU, you know the rules. And I believe the rule to be 10-2 gets you in. Get to the SEC championship game and win it, probably the 1 seed. Get to the SEC championship game and lose it, probably in. Those are the rules as LSU will have them metaphorically explained to start the season. That's what you got to figure out as of Labor Day weekend. Good piece by Heather Dinich over on ESPN.com. You can check it all out. I just highlighted like 6 lines from it. I've got 4 pages printed out that are here that are the entirety of the story. So more quotes and more to get to. I just kind of bit off the big chunks there as we continue on our Thursday show presented by Rouses. We'll come back and close things up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. How about 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance? Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It's awesome. Genesis of Baton Rouge, you buy a new Genesis, 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance. That means they come to you, they pick your car up at work, they pick your car up at home, drive it to the dealership, they leave you with the car. So if you got to get the kids to somewhere, you got to get somewhere for the job, you can make that work. They do your maintenance, wipers, cabin air filter, all that kind of stuff. Bring it right back. That oil's changed. You're ready to rock. Complimentary valet. Just one of the perks of being a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver. How about a 10 years? How many of you even drive your car for 10 years? You would have a 100,000-mile warranty on that vehicle. It's as good as you're going to find in the industry. Genesis of Baton Rouge is a phenomenal company. Unbelievable people. Right there at Airline at Pico. Get on by and check them out. If you haven't put Genesis on your list, I highly recommend you do that. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouses Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouses Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. 600,000 king cakes. You heard that right. 600,000. That's how many they're going to make this year. So if you're looking for a king cake, if you're headed the parade route, or just want one at the house like we do at the Palmer House, Rouses has got you covered. They got your flavored. They got your standard cinnamon. They got them at every location right when you walk in the front door. So if you're looking for a king cake, be sure and get on by Rouses. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, before we get started here, I just happened to notice you closed your laptop there, Ryan. That wouldn't be because it's dead, would it?
It's dead as a doornail,
That's
baby.
what I
Not
thought.
a tick of life in it. But
Great.
It got to the finish line. That's
It
all we
did.
need.
It did, but what if I just put a bunch of stuff in this document that actually needed you to see, but you couldn't see it? That would be
Well,
not
you
good.
have the ability uniquely to cut off the air and speak directly into my ear, so we'd be good.
I do. Okay.
Run
Starting
me a note.
off.
Just write a note, bring it right up here.
All right, first one. You owe sales a Rouse's king cake. Take it or leave it.
I think I got to leave this.
Just leave it alone.
I did get a piece of Rouse's king cake from the sales department earlier today. It had the baby in it.
Oh, yeah.
However, I believe it was a gift from a client.
You still, I think.
No, they didn't bring it in.
I
If
think you're on
sales
the
would
hook.
have paid for it, and then there was somebody who was supposed to bring the next one, then yeah, I'm on the hook.
Cassie,
But
what
if
do you think?
If a client's going to bring it, that's their deal.
I think since sales didn't pay for it, you don't need to get them.
Okay.
Exactly the point.
All right, I've been out.
I haven't gotten the baby in a long time though. What a thrill today! Wow.
That's fun. What kind of was it? Just a cinnamon or
Just
what?
a cinnamon, a standard, and it was delicious.
Is there any left, by the way?
Well, I haven't been over there in 2.5 hours, so I can't tell you.
Well,
it can be.
Thanks for telling me. Thanks for letting me know they had some over
You
there.
got work to do pre-show. Got to get the sound in. Got to make sure everything's all set
All
up.
right, we got. All right, moving on. Live Golf has inked a TV deal with Fox and FS1. You're unsubscribing from Fox. Take it or leave it.
I need to. We're gonna.
I'll take it.
Pathetic. Don't do partnerships with those people. Greg Norman leaves 5 minutes later to get a new CEO and a television deal. That's not coincidence.
Well, I think it also is not a coincidence that the PGA and Live said they were going to join forces somehow last year. So that's probably part of the reason why this
Some
happened.
good Northern Irish player just went to Live. Rory tried to talk him out of it. He did. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
by the way, did you see that the European Tour event Rory's playing in? It's like the Dubai Classic or
Yeah.
something. There's like an American amateur that's currently leading, I think. It's like
Sweet.
20 years old.
Is it me?
No, it's not you. You're
I'm
not
an
20.
American
You're not
amateur.
20 years old, I don't
Oh,
think.
I didn't
I
hear
think
that.
You're a
part
little bit
before I
older
said
than that.
Do you think I would have a chance to win that tournament?
No, I don't.
Of course I would.
No, don't think so. Next one, 19-year-old. Speaking of young Americans, 19-year-old American tennis player Lerner Tien, currently ranked 121st in the ATP. He beat number 5 seed Daniil Medvedev. He's pretty good in
Nice.
5 sets, becoming the youngest American to reach the third round of the Aussie since Pete Sampras. He was pretty good in 1990.
Moose's guy, Pete Sampras.
Yeah, he is. Take it or leave it.
Take it.
I'll take it.
Pete Sampras was my guy. Wimbledon, big deal in the summers when I was out of school. Used to lock in, loved Sampras. Used to play tennis in the backyard and kind of fake like the Sampras little wiggle and then go up and hit it. Serve volley game. Excellent. Wife, excellent. All good. Pete Sampras, stud.
All right, yeah, so it's actually the guy's name is David Ford. He's playing in the Dubai Classic. He is 22 years old. He goes to North Carolina.
Wow.
So Tar Heel leading the charge here. John Rahm is playing in this tournament, 3 under. But moving on, last one. The power going out at 11 a.m. on a sunny day. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it at the Beck House, baby.
Wow.
That's proof that you have not talked to the folks at Boudreaux's Electric.
Well, that's true.
Do you have the peace of mind of knowing that your
No, I don't.
power's not going to go out?
No, I don't.
Or are you annoyed right now at the fact the power's out?
I am.
That tells you all you need to hear.
It is.
Don't be like Beck. That's
Don't
really
be like
something
me.
you could live by. But in this instance...
And you know what's funny, too, is that the power goes out, and I hear outside my house all the generators turning on.
That's exactly right.
Some of them installed
I used
by
to have that
Boudreaux's.
next door at the old house. We don't have that problem anymore. Excellent work. Great job, Beck. Call Boudreaux's.
Thankfully, we have a water heater is gas, thankfully, so we could take a hot shower at least.
That's good. Take a shower, Beck. I'll be at the first pitch banquet tonight. Hope to see y'all out there. If not, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. Have a great and safe Thursday. Ready for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972.